In December 2017, despite a wealth of scientific evidence to the contrary, the British Columbia government moved to ban all grizzly bear hunting in the province. The reason for the ban, as stated in a BC government news release, was that, and I quote, "the government's consultation with many British Columbians who have declared that the hunt is not in line with their values." Certainly, the Guides and Outfitters Association of British Columbia was not invited into this consultation and decried this political, not science-based decision, stating, and I quote, "It is truly disappointing that we throw history and science out the window for some urban votes. We expect our government to make informed decisions based on facts and science. Emotional decisions are not good for anyone." This new assault on legal, science-based, ethical, and tightly controlled big game hunting is just the latest example of politics over science as it relates to wildlife conservation. As a result of this ill-conceived decision by the British Columbia government, a class action lawsuit was recently filed in British Columbia Supreme Court by BC hunting outfitter Ron Fleming, seeking compensation for all guide outfitting businesses. This suit alleges that the decision was taken for inappropriate reasons, without regard to proper wildlife management practices, and with the knowledge that the decision would cause harm to guide outfitters. While we are disappointed that legal action is necessary, Dallas Safari Club is in full support of the Guides and Outfitters of British Columbia with this lawsuit. This assault on legal, science-based, ethical, and tightly controlled big game hunting is just the latest example of politics over science as it relates to wildlife conservation and cannot be left unchallenged. Of greater concern is the fear that this may be just the tip of the anti-hunting iceberg that clearly has the stoppage of bear hunting in North America firmly in its crosshairs. This concern was legitimized this past September when a federal judge ruled to ignore the scientific study of the Wyoming State game and fish biologist specializing in grizzly populations of the greater Yellowstone region. This study was conducted by a highly trained game and fish biologist whose finding had the full support of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Their research found that the Wyoming grizzly population had recovered sufficiently from as few as 136 to a population in excess of 700 to justify a tightly regulated harvest of up to 23 bears this fall. Despite the scientific findings of these experts, this activist judge took wildlife management into his own hands and overturned the 2017 decision to delist the Greater Yellowstone grizzly bear from the protection of the Endangered Species Act. This ended the opportunity to legally hunt a population of grizzly bears that could clearly support a limited harvest. Proven and effective wildlife management policies, such as those stated in the North American model of wildlife conservation, are under threat. Activist judges and politicians are increasingly ruling to pacify anti-hunting and special interest groups. We cannot let this stand. DSC will continue to be a leading voice for science-based wildlife management here in North America and internationally. And we are prepared to support that position in the courts, as well as continuing to provide factual data to shape the court of public opinion. The endgame of anti-hunting activists has been exposed. Their stated agenda is to bring an eventual end to sport hunting wherever our legal, time-honored tradition is enjoyed. Hunters, regardless of where they live or what species they pursue, must raise a common voice and unite against those who are dedicated to the elimination of hunting. DSC is committed to the protection of our hunting heritage and the conservation of wildlife worldwide.